Well, Doug Garlinger is our chief engineer for this type of ministry. He built this thing himself, and he said he had dreamed from the time he was a little boy, when he was studying electronics, that one day he would put together our shortwave station. And when it came in big boxes, Doug was so happy for it, and he wants to tell you just a little bit about it. And we would like you to become better acquainted. Ring those telephones. Let's keep the number up there and ring those phones now.
We're here at the facility of World Harvest Radio International. That's LaCie's shortwave broadcast station, where we're able to broadcast to the entire world right from central Indiana. Now, the transmitter right here is our Angel 1. That's the first transmitter that we had, and we put that on the air on Christmas Eve of 1985. And when we signed on the air at 7 p.m. Christmas Eve in Indiana, it was already Christmas Day in Europe, and that was the beginning of our transmissions from this facility. And a couple of years later, we added our second transmitter, and this is Angel 2. We now broadcast exclusively to Europe on this transmitter, and we use Angel 1 just for our broadcast to South America. And this is the control panel of the transmitter, and this is what we use to make our frequency adjustments throughout the day. Operating an international shortwave station is a fairly expensive proposition. We have two Harris transmitters, 100 kilowatts, and each of the two transmitters uses two high-powered tubes. That means we have a total of 4. And this is an example of that tube. And when we first went on the air on Christmas Day of 1985, these tubes cost $9,000 apiece. Now the price has risen to almost $18,000 apiece. And when you have 4 of these tubes, and on average they last about 9,000 hours, that's approximately 1 year of a 24-hour-a-day operation. That means that, as a general rule, you're going to need one of these about every 3 months. And we've been very fortunate in that the tubes that we have in the transmitter right now have operated for much longer than that, and so we've been able to keep our costs down. But still, we do need these from time to time, and we're in a situation within the next year where we're going to need several of these. Some of the other things that have failed is the tuning coil. This is a couple of $1,000s, and this is how the frequency is adjusted. And I'd say about 7 or 8 times a day on each transmitter, this has to be retuned to change the frequencies so that we can go and broadcast to a different part of Europe or a different part of South America. And this is an insulator that's used on the antenna. It's to keep the power from arcing between the metallic wires, and sometimes these become coated with ice, but as a general rule, these are a pretty reliable device. We don't have to replace any of these very often. One of the frequent problems we have is, well, this is a new resistor. It would not seem to be a very expensive item, but it is over $100, and when it fails, it just goes to pieces, so to speak, and you can see what happens to it if the transmitter should happen to arc for some reason. Now, these components are just items that routinely fail from time to time, but normally the transmitter is very reliable, and it allows us to broadcast 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, both to South America and to Europe. And in fact, over the last 5 years, we've heard from about 118 different nations throughout the world, and as far away as Australia or Japan, and to the tip of Africa, down in Johannesburg. We currently have 2 antennas. One is pointed towards South America, and we get very good transmission off of that, and the people in South America and the Caribbean get good reception from us. The other antenna we have broadcasts to Europe. Most of our transmissions are in English, and so we tend to get a lot more reception reports from the European countries that have quite a few people that speak English in addition to their native tongue. Now, we broadcast with a log periodic antenna that allows us to put about 4.5 million watts into Europe. And one of the things we'd like to do in the future here at WHRI is to add what we call a curtain antenna, a 611 curtain antenna. That would enable us to transmit with 12 to 15 million watts, and we could put a much more powerful signal into Europe. We know that the impact of World Harvest Radio can be improved by adding the curtain antenna. We can make our signal stronger into Europe, stronger throughout Africa, and that's one of the reasons that your support of this project is very important for World Harvest Radio.